Hey there, horror fans. Welcome to Sundust Short Horror Stories, where we deliver quick, real-life chills that'll linger long after the lights go out. I'm your host, and tonight's tale is about a kid who loved horror until it moved in next door. Let's get right into the creepy funeral home next door. I was just a 12-year-old kid back then, totally obsessed with horror stuff, Shows like Ghost Adventures, blasting gothic metal bands on my headphones, devouring every scary movie or creepy urban legend. I could find I loved it all. The ghosts, the monsters, the dark vibes. But here's the thing, it was all make-believe to me. Safe fun. Even in real life, I was a total scaredy cat. The slightest real-world creepiness would send me hiding under the covers. And then there was the funeral home next door. It was this massive, ancient Victorian building that had been a funeral parlor for as long as anyone could remember. We're talking way back in the day when they did everything in-house, even their own autopsies right there on the premises. The place loomed over our quiet neighborhood like a shadow, with its faded brick walls, tall narrow windows, and that heavy front door that always seemed to creak even when no one was around. My bedroom window faced a directly perfect view. And that's how I knew they work weird hours. Late into the night, I'd spotlights flickering on in the hallways, shadows moving behind the curtains, figures walking back and forth like they had all the time in the world. But here's what really got me. The workers didn't seem to mind the dark. Most nights, the whole building stayed pitch black. No lights on at all. Who does embalming or whatever in total darkness? It was creepy, morbid, straight out of a nightmare. One night I couldn't sleep. Probably after binge-watching too many paranormal videos, I peeked out my window like I sometimes did, just to fuel my horror obsession from a safe distance. And that's when I saw her. A woman, wandering the halls slowly, aimlessly. And she wasn't wearing a single stitch of clothing. I froze, my heart pounded so hard I thought it would wake my parents. What the hell, this was a place of business, a funeral home. Why would anyone be walking around naked in the middle of the night? It didn't make sense. It was wrong on every level. I pulled the curtains shut and didn't sleep a wink. The next morning I spotted the owner outside, tending to some flowers by the gate. I'd known him for years. He was this quiet older guy who always waved hello and slipped me candy on Halloween. Seemed normal enough. So I marched over trying to act casual and spilled everything. "Hey, Mr. Thompson." I see people moving around in there at night all the time, like really late. And last night there was this lady walking around with no clothes on. That's super weird, right? He stopped what he was doing, his face went pale, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. He stared off toward the building for a long moment, then sighed heavily. "Oh God," he muttered. "Okay, buddy, listen. There's something you need to know about this place, the land here. It's wrong. Cursed, maybe, or sacred in some old way we don't understand. I don't know the full history. But at night after we lock up and leave, the bodies, they get up. They walk around, they always have. That's why everyone clocks out at 5 p.m. sharp and doesn't come back until morning. We don't stick around for it." I just stared at him, my mouth hanging open. "Wait, so all those people I've been seeing moving in the windows, they're dead?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, every one of them." I don't even remember saying goodbye. I bolted home, slammed my door, and hid in my room the rest of the day. My mind raced with images of corpses shuffling through those dark halls, pale skin glowing faintly in the moonlight, going about whatever unfinished business the dead have. By the time night fell again, I couldn't take it. I rummaged through the garage, found the thickest, darkest black sheet I could, and dragged it upstairs. With trembling hands, I nailed it over my window, every side, every corner, sealed it tight, no gaps, no way for even a sliver of that building to peek through. To this day, that sheet's still up there. Or at least it was when I moved out years later. Some horrors are better left unseen. And that's tonight's tale, folks. A short but sharp reminder that the line between fiction and reality can be thinner than a funeral shroud. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Sundust Short Horror Stories. If these quick chills hit the spot, please subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. Share your own short horror experiences in the comments. I read them all and might feature yours next. Stay safe out there. And I'll catch you in the next shadow. Good night.
Welcome to Sundust Short Horror Stories, the podcast that delivers quick, sharp chills straight to your ears. I'm your host, and tonight we have a true account from deep in the West Virginia wilderness. A story that starts like a routine search and ends in a place no one should ever find. This one is called Cavern of Bones. Settle in, keep the lights low, and let's begin. I'm a sheriff in a small town on the edge of the Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia. Most days around here are quiet. Not much happens, but one fall, that changed. The forest is huge, almost 1 million acres of thick woods, steep hills, and hidden caves. If you don't know what you're doing out there, you can disappear for good. That's what we figured had happened to a middle-aged man who filed a hiking plan and then went silent for 2 days. A missing persons report came in, so I rounded up help from a couple of nearby counties and we headed in. The odds of finding him, or even a clue, were slim. The place is just too big. 5 hours into the search, we spotted something strange, a hat and a pair of hiking shoes hanging high in a tree, way higher than any person could climb without serious gear. It didn't make sense. We marked the spot with GPS, but left them dangling, too risky to retrieve right then, and kept moving. By dusk, we made camp. We were eating around the fire when we noticed movement far up a hillside, inside the mouth of a cave. It was almost dark, but something big was shifting around, and there could have been a bear. We kept our rifles close and waited. Nothing came down that night. Morning broke cold and clear. One of the deputies suggested we check the cave. Maybe the hiker had run into trouble with whatever was inside. Nobody was excited about it, but we went anyway. The climb took almost 45 minutes. Steep rock, loose gravel, ropes to keep from falling. When we finally reached the opening and shone our lights inside, we stopped dead. There was a fresh body, torn apart so badly we couldn't tell who it was. And deeper in the cave, piles of human bones, skulls, old clothing, backpacks, camping gear, years worth of missing people, all ending right here. Fear hit us hard. Whatever did this was strong, patient, and still out there, but there were 5 of us armed, so we held our ground. We called for a helicopter, secured the fresh body, and waited. As the chopper lowered the harness and we loaded up, I looked down toward the trees. Something was watching us from behind a trunk, tall, at least 8 feet, covered in dark hair, built like a man, but bigger, heavier. It just stood there staring. We scrambled aboard and lifted off fast. I managed one blurry photo on my phone as we rose. Later, the body was identified as our missing hiker. The older remains closed, a handful of cold cases. We reported everything: the cave, the bones, the creature. A recovery team went back for the rest. But no one ever followed up on what we saw watching us leave. To this day, when visitors ask about hiking deep in those woods, I tell them the same thing: stick to the trails, don't go too far. Something's waiting out there, and it doesn't like company. That's Cavern of Bones, short, real, and cold enough to stick with you. If these quick hits of horror are your thing, do me a favor, smash that like button, leave a review if you're feeling generous, and most importantly, hit subscribe so the next story finds you without warning. Share it with someone who won't sleep tonight. We'll be back soon with more dust and shadows. Until then, watch the tree line.
Welcome to Sundust Short Horror Stories, the podcast where we plunge into the darkest corners of the unexplained. Real tales from listeners like you, pulled from the fringes of nightmare and reality. Tonight's episode features a chilling submission from an anonymous soul isolated deep in the wilderness. Brace yourself for abduction in the woods. Turn off the lights, lock your doors, and whatever you do, don't look out the window. I love living in the woods. I have a small 2-bedroom house that sits 5 miles off the main road. With no neighbors around for miles, I've never had any real issues out here. The huge yard keeps most wildlife at bay, and animals rarely come poking their noses into my business. I'm a firm believer in UFOs and aliens, though I've never experienced anything myself. I just can't wrap my head around the idea that the universe is so vast, yet Earth is the only planet with life. Then one night, my theories were proven right, in the worst way possible. I was alone at home, lying in bed, not quite asleep, but scrolling through Facebook on my tablet. My eyes were getting heavy when I noticed a strange light deep in the woods beyond my window. This wasn't some ordinary flashlight beam. It was massive, pointed straight up toward the sky, and it shifted colors. First silver, then gold, and finally a bright bronze. I was mesmerized. Curiosity got the better of me, and I had to investigate. Of course, I grabbed my .38 special revolver. I never venture into those woods unarmed, especially at night. My area is known for bears, cougars, and coyotes, predators that don't take kindly to intruders. I rushed outside, hopped on my four-wheeler, and headed toward the glow. Before long, I knew I was close. I could even hear a strange noise, like a hammer striking metal, rhythmic and unnatural. I killed the engine on the ATV and proceeded on foot, not wanting to announce my presence. Creeping through the underbrush, I finally reached the source. To my utter amazement, there hovered some kind of ship, suspended in the air just above the smaller trees. It wasn't enormous, maybe big enough for 5 people at most, but it was undeniably real. The area was bathed in that shifting light, so I stayed hidden in the shadows at the edge of the clearing. If I stepped any farther, I'd be fully exposed. Then I saw them, 3 figures walking beneath the craft. They didn't look alien at all. In fact, they looked exactly like humans, ordinary people just like me. I edged closer, heart pounding, and spotted what looked like a gurney. One of them lifted a sheet draped over it, revealing a body underneath. I gasped, clamping a hand over my mouth in horror. What the hell was this? They unceremoniously dumped the body onto the ground. Moments later, a spherical beam of light descended from the craft. The 3 figures stepped into it and vanished. The ship lingered for a few seconds before silently ascending and disappearing into the night sky. I waited frozen in place until I was sure it was gone. Only then did I approach the body, which lay motionless in the dirt. With the craft departed, total darkness swallowed the woods. I pulled my spotlight from my bag and shone it on the figure. It was a woman, about my age, and she was most definitely dead, pale, lifeless, with no signs of injury that I could see. I called 911 right away and reported finding a body. I didn't breathe a word about the ship or the figures. Instead, I spun a story. I'd been out searching for a bear that had been stalking my property for weeks. A few days later, the police got back to me. The woman had been identified. She'd been reported missing a month earlier while hiking in a state park about 25 miles away. They were baffled as to how she'd ended up here, and the coroner chalked her death up to exposure to the elements. No trauma, no signs of struggle, just dead, as if she'd been plucked from one place and dropped in another. Of course, I hear stories like this all the time, hikers vanishing on trails only to turn up miles away, sometimes weeks or months later with no explanation for how they got their clothes folded neatly, no footprints leading to the body, unexplained disappearances in the wild. Well, now I think I have a pretty good idea of what's really going on out here in the woods. And sometimes late at night I catch myself staring out the window, wondering if that light will return, wondering if they'll come back for her, or maybe for someone else, like me. That wraps up tonight's tale on Sundust Short Horror Stories. If it sent chills down your spine, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. It helps more lost souls find our little corner of the dark. Got your own brush with the shadows, a true story that still haunts you? Send it in. We might feature it next. Thanks for listening. Sleep with the lights on. If you dare, good night.
Welcome back to Sundust Short Horror Stories, where old mountain shadows still whisper warnings. Tonight's chill comes from a real childhood memory. We call it the Valley Church. When I was a kid, my uncle was a Pentecostal preacher, and I grew up deep in the denomination. I'm not a Christian now, but I sure spent a lot of time in church back then. One night after service, we were drinking coffee at his place when he warned us about a little church down in the valley that handled snakes. I'd never heard of such a thing. He said the Holy Spirit filled them so full they could pick up rattlesnakes and copperheads, get bit, drink poison, and nothing would harm them. He looked us dead in the eye and said never set foot in that place. But curiosity's stronger than fear sometimes. A week later, my parents went anyway, just to see left me and my brother with a sitter. They came home late, pale, talking low. Said it was wild, people speaking in tongues, passing live snakes like offerings, preacher with a big rattler draped around his neck. A few got bit but kept dancing, praising God. Mom and Dad laughed it off. Probably milked the venom out. They said harmless hill folk, but they went back. Again and again. Soon Mom hummed those frantic hymns around the house. Dad stared toward the valley like he was waiting on a call. One night I overheard them. If it's real faith, Dad whispered, maybe we should feel it too. Then they decided the whole family should go just once, they promised. We drove deep into fog, choked hollow until a single bulb glowed over a sagging wooden building, rough cross nailed above the door. Inside, the air was thick, sweat, coal oil, frenzied guitars and tambourines hammered wild rhythm under the altar boxes rattled with snakes. The preacher spotted us newcomers and smiled too wide. He beckoned my parents forward. Dad took a copperhead first, hands shaking but holding steady. Mom closed her eyes, lifted it high and swayed. Then the preacher draped a huge diamondback across her shoulders. The snake settled against her cheek like it belonged there. She smiled a smile I didn't recognize. My little brother started crying. The sound sliced through the chaos, heads turned. The preacher's eyes burned into us. Dad rushed us outside into the fog. Mom stayed. We waited in the car nearly an hour when she finally came. The diamondback was still coiled around her neck, moving slow with her breath. She got in without a word. The snake looked right at me and rattled once, soft, almost gentle. After that, snake boxes appeared in our house. The rattling never stopped. Mom and Dad spoke less to us, more in strange tongues. They vanished to the valley most nights. One morning, my brother's bed was empty. I found him on the floor, staring into a cottonmouth box, smiling Mom's new smile. When I grabbed him, he hissed at me. I ran to my uncle. He grabbed his Bible, rock salt shells, and drove us home. The house stood empty, door wide open. Every snake box gone. On the kitchen table, a mason jar, cloudy liquid, and a note in Mom's handwriting. The spirit calls us deeper. Do not follow. We never saw them again. Search parties found the church burned to ash, foundation full of charred snake bones, no people. Sometimes late at night I still hear that dry rattling, faint, like it's coming from inside the walls, or maybe from inside me. Thanks for listening to Sundust Short Horror Stories. If this one got under your skin, please hit like, drop a follow, and leave a review. It means the world and helps new listeners find us. Until next time, keep the lights on.